Okay, we're going to work with the pen tool today. So the first thing we want to do is find our pen tool, and notice shortcut is P. So we're going to go down through the timeline. I know it's this one, but you can hover over your tools, look at your tools sheet, but find the pen. Any of these could be showing. You just have to then click and hold to open the panel. Okay, the pen tool is a tool to create paths. The paths are connected by anchor points that you plot. I've now created a path. Its anchor points connected by angles or arcs. I just did all angles. You could click and drag. You could click and drag. Click and drag. Click. It's starting to get crazy. Now, I'm just going to end it here. So you could have a combination of straights and arcs, or just all arcs, just all straight lines. So we're going to do an exercise here where you're going to actually trace these shapes. But just so you know, the pen tool creates paths that are a collection of anchor points that are connected by arcs or angles. Okay. Freeform pen tool. You don't have to move slowly about and plot all those points the way I did. You draw freely and it will generate all those points. Now this is a little wobbly, but look at all those points. It generates them for you. So if you have to be really precise in your selection, I recommend using the regular pen tool so you can really control where all your points and arcs and angles are. But if you're doing something a little looser, freeform's great. Okay, if I find I need to add an anchor point, so let's say I want to go to the add anchor point tool. See the plus sign next to this, and the next one is delete. If I find that I need to go in a whole new direction, let's say between these 2 points here, all I have to do is click on a path, and now I've generated one. If I think I need one down here, I click on a path. It generates a new anchor point. If I click out here, nothing happens. You have to actually click on a path to be able to generate. Now, I could delete if I find I've added too many, so of course I can come in and delete all of those. If I want to move where an anchor point is sitting, I can come down here. You see the white arrow. If you don't, find your direct selection tool, shortcut A. You might be seeing path selection tool. I just want to click to activate the anchor point, and then click and drag. Click to activate, click and drag. Click, up, click, click. Now, if I want to adjust and say get rid of all of these straight sections and create curves, coming back over here to these pen tools, go to my convert point tool. Used to be called convert anchor point tool, which is why the sheet says it that way. If you click on an anchor point and drag, it will not move the anchor point, but it will pull out what are called handles, and I can adjust those handles. I could click and drag up here. Let's say I wanted to leave that here like that. Bring this in. So it allows you to go in and edit. So here in your notes, freeform, it allows you to freely draw a path as opposed to plotting all the points, which the regular pen tool does. Add anchor point tool allows you to click on a path and add more anchor points. Delete anchor point, click on a path to delete an anchor point. Convert anchor point lets you click on an anchor point and drag handles out. And direct selection lets you click on an anchor point and move it to a new position. Okay. Let's see, next, making a selection. So let's say, well, first of all, I want you to see, now that we've drawn all these paths, we have our path panel open, or I have the path panel open. all the paths were drawn together, which could be an issue for this moment. So actually, I just deleted all those paths. I am going to very quickly draw a path around this star. Very simple, and this is part of the exercise you're going to do. I'm just plotting the points as close as possible. Oops, and I'm ending where I started. So I've just created a path. I want to come over here, and first of all, I want to call it star because that's the path. And I'm going to fix this up now. So let's take our direct select and click to activate the anchor points and then drag it to a new position. So this one, however, it's not the position, it's the fact that it exists. So let's delete it. We're going to come back to our delete anchor point tool, click in here and delete. Okay, so we have a star path. Let's make another path, but make a new path, okay? And we'll call it circle. Because we want to apply things to these paths, and if they're together, it's not going to work the way we want. So let's do a circle now. And of course, we need that pen tool. So I've switched to the pen. I'm going to start right here at the top. I click and drag. You do not need to, the efficient way to use the pen tool is not to keep clicking and outlining. What you will find is you're going to have all kinds of segments that do not seem smooth. In other words, a circle would not look really like a circle. Okay? So you just need to plot one. I'm coming down here and I held shift, and I'm going to click and come down here. I held shift. I'm going to click, come back up here, hold shift. I have to drag a little. I do have to adjust. They're not quite at the edge. Click, click, and it kind of went exact. Now, I do have to edit just a bit. Direct selection tool, activate and move. Activate and move. It didn't plot it quite exactly where I wanted it. And click, and that looks really pretty good. Okay. So now I've done the path for my circle. Oops, let's lift that just ever so slightly. Okay, so we have a circle up here. It doesn't look much like a circle. We have a star, and we go back here to layers. There's nothing selected yet. So what we want to do is we want to make selections of the star and the circle and put them on new layers. So we'll copy and paste once they're selections. So we'll start with the star, and we are going to, while the star path is selected, come to the top, and we're going to make a selection of it. Now, what you're being asked is, do you want a really crisp edge, or do you want to feather the edge? The lower the number, the crisper the selection edge. The higher the number, the more blended the edge. So let's go with a 0 to start with. I'm going to click OK. I've made a selection. I'm going to come back here to layers. I have my layers selected. I'm copying, Command C, pasting, Command V. Nice clean selection. Now, I'm still going back to paths, back to the star. Let's make another selection. You can use a path as many times as you want, but let's feather it this time. Okay? So how about if we do 15? Click OK. So notice it's not the exact edge any longer. Go to layers, copy and paste. Turn the original off, and let's move that new one out. Look at the blended edge. So feathering means just that. It's sort of a transition from solid to transparent. So we've just done two versions of it. We have a crisp edge and we have a feathered edge. All right, back here. Let's do the circle path. So with your circle path, again, make your selection. And you could go with the same 15 if you wanted. Feather your circle, back to layers, copy and paste. Look at that. Now, because we started with we started with a feathered edge. We don't want to copy from a feathered edge image, so make sure you select the original. Go back to paths, select circle, and when you make your selection this time, go down to 0, so it's a crisp, clean edge, copy, paste, turn this off, and move it out of the way. So you should have a version of each when you are done, and you should have a path for each when you are done. You should have a feathered edge star, a feathered edge circle, and a crisp edge circle and a crisp edge star. So you will have 5 layers. You will always keep the original, and you have 2 paths. Now, let's keep moving. So those are the instructions for the exercise you're doing. We've covered making a selection with the path. You simply, while the path is selected, go to the drop down, make selection. Feather radius. When the panel opens, you set the feather radius. It is the transition of solid transparent. Save. Make selection. Save. Where is save? Oh, that's for a path. Okay, I'm sorry. Make sure you label each path and then start a new one. Okay, so you name it, click OK, and it's going to save in here. To fill a path, that's a whole new beast. Okay, so what we're going to do is turn all of these off and turn on our original layer. And we want to fill a path. So let's start with the star. The star, and make a new blank layer, because we really don't, actually we could turn it off. We really don't care about that original art right now. You need a blank layer to fill a path. Let's call it fill path. And go back to paths. Click on fill path. Now, what it's going to do is, again, it asks if you want to adjust the feather radius. I'm keeping them nice and clean, so at 0. The contents of the path, you can pick the foreground color, which right now is white, or the background color, which right now is red. You can also swap them using this arrow, or you could click color, which is what I normally do. The color picker will open. You can pick whatever color, whatever tint and shade you want. Click OK, and click OK, and it fills it. And once you deselect the path, that blue line is gone. So filling a path, you simply select it, create a blank layer to associate it with, go to the drop down and fill. Now, we could also put a stroke on it. A stroke is a line or an outline. And that stroke could have a pencil, a brush. It could have any of the tool settings applied. Okay, so it just defaulted. I don't want my path to be locked onto the fill layer, so I am going to do a stroke path for the star. I have it selected. Go back to paths. I have the star. And I don't want white. I'm going to click here, which is the default setting for colors. You see black in the foreground, white in the stroke box. I can always switch them, but I want to have a black outline on or stroke on my star. And I'm going to open brushes so I can pick the brush that I want. So I went to window in the drop down, and I think I'll just do, let's try that brush. So I've picked the brush. I don't need it to be supersized, so I'm going to shrink it a bit. And now, while the path is selected, I'm going to go to stroke path. I'll keep it on the brush, click OK, and it's now applied it. And I can always zoom in to see. Now, it's just a basic brush. It's not anything special, but you could, of course, pick something special. And by keeping the stroke on a separate layer, I can always separate them, use them separate, and it keeps you organized. So fill path, create a layer associated with a path. While the path is selected, you come up, you either select fill or you select stroke. Make a work path. So, if you have forgotten to create a path, let's keep this. I'm wondering. Okay, no. Yeah, let me click off of paths altogether. I am going to create. No, okay. Sorry, I'm just sort of working through it. I'm going to keep the fill path, just the filled star for the moment. So let's say I forgot to keep the path, but the assignment says all paths must be labeled and included. So I can select the actual artwork, come back to paths, and do I have to make a new path? Let's new star. Let's see if that will work for us. Nope, work path is not showing up yet. Hold on, I'm working my way through it. So I have it select. Oh, I have to select the work itself. Okay, so we do know a tool that selects all light color pixels. I could either click on the star to select it, or I could click the background and go to select and inverse, and now the star is selected. So I've selected the area that I want to create a path for. I'm going back to paths. I should be able, yes, go to the drop down and click make new work path or make work path. So now, how specific do I want that path to be? I want it to be really specific. Let's see how low a number it lets us go. Let's try 1. Oh, look at that. Now it has an awful lot of anchor points in there, which could be a problem at some point, but I've now created a work path, and I could always then label it. I'll call, oh, I need new star 2. Okay. All right, and I can click and drag to rearrange them. So if you forget to save your path, you can select the artwork, go to paths, and then the drop down will allow you to make a new work path. Okay? This is a lot of notes we're having here. And this is the easiest section, layers. We have layers. Adding and deleting layers. You can always come to the bottom and add as many layers as you want, or come up to layer, new layer, add them here, and this up arrow symbol is shift, so you can always do shift command N to add layers. Now if you've added too many like I just did, you can click the trash, then click yes, or you can just select the layer to get rid of and press backspace delete, and it will delete them. Oh goodness. Okay. We'll just do layer opacity. We'll come back to the other two when they apply to something we're doing. Layer opacity can be adjusted. Any layer you select, you just come up in the layers panel and you can adjust. 0 is completely transparent, 100 is completely solid, and anywhere in the middle is transparent. Okay? I think that's plenty for now. So if you don't understand something you've seen or heard here, ask questions.